Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Chats with Chaudhry. I hope you're safe and well. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by John Johnson, who you've seen before on the Chats with Chaudhry. And here he is from NSF International Health Sciences. And today, we're going to be talking about current trends in pharma. So, John, great to see you again.
Good to see you again, Rizwan.
Well, you and I had a catch up in August, actually, and a lot has changed since then. So, before we start talking about those changes and how that's impacting pharma, perhaps you give people who are not familiar with NSF a bit of a quick background on the business and your role there.
Yes, I'm Vice President of NSF Pharma Services, and most of the work that I do just now is all about scale up, technology transfer, and GMP services. So it's been a really busy year, Rizwan.
Right. Okay. So before anything else, I know you attended the Financial Times Global Boardroom event last month. So was there anything which came out of that?
Yeah, what a fantastic event that was. That was 36 hours of my time over 3 days.
Right.
You know, the great and good of journalism and politics and industry leaders were there. I was really across chat rooms for the 3 days. And of course, our global VP, Martin Lush, was in one of the panel discussions. So an amazing event to be at.
Right. And what insights did you get from that in terms of the trends in pharma and post-COVID would be?
Well, a huge variety of subjects came out. Obviously, it wasn't just about pharmaceuticals. It was about the trends in business in a post-COVID world. So for us in particular, we're really interested in how we're going to develop some durability and resilience in our supply chains. You know, it's so frustrating, isn't it? I think we spoke about drug shortages on our last chat with Chaudhry. So we're really interested now in now what's going to happen next. You know, how we're going to make sure that our supply chains are stronger, more reliable, that we can continue supplying these very important products to people in need.
So in reality, then, what does that actually all mean then? So how can people sort of reinforce their supply chains?
Well, of course, first of all, you've got to be a lot better at selecting the right partners. You know, it's all about making sure that you get into bed with the right organizations in the first place. Then you manage risk. And obviously then look at some way of developing a relationship that gives a certain degree of trust, a certain degree of verification, and a certain degree of proper quality oversight. So we're really helping a lot of firms in this just now, because fundamentally, what's going to happen over the next couple of years is a lot more technology transfer, a lot more movement amongst supply chains, which means a lot more new product introductions. And that level of selection and oversight is going to be crucial for our clients, I'm sure.
Right. And how will the economic conditions affect pharma going forward, do you think?
Well, we're anticipating, Rizwan, there's going to be a lot more mergers and acquisitions. You know, some firms have done really badly. Some have done okay. Some have done very well. And that tends to mean that we move into a period of VUCA. So Martin and I use this term quite a lot. VUCA means volatile, unpredictable, complex, and ambiguous. So essentially, all of us are going to need to make some big decisions in a lot wider grey areas. We're going to have a lot less data, a lot less information to make these big decisions on. So firms are going to have to work out who to acquire, who to merge with, who to set their supply chains with, fundamentally, because ultimately, of course, we think that margins are going to be squeezed and business is going to become that much keener. So we're anticipating as well a big uptick in interest in our lean projects to try and remove human error, non-right first time, try and reduce the amount of recurring deviations, because all of this adds cost and delay to the supply chain.
Right, but obviously you're talking about a lot more M&A activity, but there's a lot of uncertainty. So there's also going to be a lot less data out there, isn't there, for people when they're doing these M&A activities? And also, you've still got, even with the vaccine rollout, the possibility that it won't be easy to have those face-to-face conversations you would have had to do your background research. So how do you think that impacts in terms of the M&A activity?
Well, there's an awful lot you can do remotely, of course. There's an awful lot that you can do through review of documentation and with video streaming and that type of thing. But really, Rizwan, it's going to be about relationships. It's about things like we're doing now in 2 dimensions, as much as what we used to do in 3 dimensions. You know, we've moved something like 90% of our training and coaching services into e-learning just now.
Right.
You know, whether it's instructor-led or pure e-learning, and we're finding some fantastic feedback from it. So there's a lot you can do, but obviously we're all looking forward to being face-to-face and bumping elbows and talking again face-to-face in the factories and on the shop floor.
Right. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of talk about remote inspections because of COVID over the last 12 months and the impact that's had in terms of possibly lower regulatory enforcement this year. I know all the regulatory authorities would say that isn't the case, obviously, but there is obviously an impact when you can only inspect remotely in terms of the regulatory enforcement there is. So how do you think that has an impact going forward?
Well, obviously in 2020, there's been a significant reduction in the number of site regulatory inspections around the world for all the obvious reasons we know. So companies like NSF have been very active in trying to provide that detailed review and oversight and risk assessment remotely. And we've been able to use a variety of tools to get the very best view on the risks within that supply chain and to be able to advise people on what to remediate right now. Because I know this is maybe a tough thing to hear, you know, for everybody, but we all know that when the agencies are not inspecting as much as what they were before, it's that old phrase, the cat's away, the mice play. So we are anticipating a number of GMP remediation programs that are going to be needed in 21-22 period. And we've got to be ready for that degree of activity, corrective actions, preventive actions, training, new facilities, and a real uptick in the GMP compliance across pharmaceutical companies. You know, we're looking forward to getting back to normality, but actually the new normal is going to be kind of different to the 2019 normal, isn't it?
Well, I certainly think so. Not sure if everyone will necessarily agree with that, but I think a lot of people are thinking that way anyway. So the other big impact obviously has been that people have been working from home a lot more. So how do you think that impacts going forward in terms of your pharma clients?
Well, the interesting thing with this is that obviously working from home, you have a lot fewer distractions because you don't have the water cooler time and you don't have the kind of social time with your colleagues quite as much. So you do get a kind of dividend from it. I think it also enables you to think in a fresh way about how I'm going to work smarter rather than just work longer. You know, the amount of community time that we've now got back as a dividend has been really, really helpful for many people. And it's enabled us to look at our priorities in a different way, to look at the return on investment for that time. And yes, it will never go back to normal. You know, after all, people say, oh, I'd really love it to be back like 2019. Well, 2019 wasn't that great either, was it? Why don't we actually do something better than 2019? So I think the future is going to be all about this hybrid approach, you know, more e-interface like we're doing now, but also to some degree getting back onto the shop floor and seeing things for how they really are.
Right. Okay. So you mentioned obviously your virtual learning courses a little bit earlier. So how are NSF helping companies get through this difficult period and also planning ahead now for 2021?
Well, the feedback we've had is that our messaging over the last year around the COVID-19 services that we've had has been really useful. So we completely changed our webinar schedule to actually focus on subjects that were most interesting to people during a crisis like this. We've had a lot more webinars, a lot more videos. We've done a lot more remote auditing, of course. I mean, personally, and for some of my colleagues, we've been doing a lot of transition training for EU qualified persons so that they could transition into releasing vaccines to the market, you know, moving from maybe a specialization of tablet manufacturing to a specialization of vaccine manufacturing and sterile products. So people really appreciate how quickly we've been able to pivot those services. I think one of the key things here as well is that as life speeds up, and there's going to be an acceleration in life as we begin to come out of this, people are going to realize that if they've got a certain loyalty to a brand, a certain reputation with a brand, they'll want to access end-to-end services. So we're in a good place here because we can offer services all the way from clinical trial, manufacture and GCP, all the way through to commercialization and large-scale technology transfer. So those end-to-end services are going to be really useful for us as well. But fundamentally, we've all got a really short attention span just now. We've got a lot of priorities to deal with. So you've got to be working with people who are really credible, really pragmatic, and get to the point quickly. So hopefully that's going to be really useful for us and interesting for us in the new year.
Brilliant. Well, I'll put the links up for more information for NSF above the video anyway, if people would like to know more. One final thing was one question just popped into my head, and that is that obviously something very, very topical right now is Brexit. So, and there's still a lot of uncertainty. We still don't know if we're going to get a deal or not, obviously. We've still got a couple of weeks to go. So what's the feedback you're getting from your customers about their readiness or not, as it may be, for Brexit?
Well, in terms of predictions, I'm going to plead the Fifth Amendment on this one, Rizwan, because who knows?
No, sure.
A very volatile situation. It's changing more or less every day, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes for sure. For the clients, in terms of readiness, two aspects of this. Regulatory readiness is going to be very difficult to see because we don't exactly know the regulatory framework going into 2021. And in terms of supply chain readiness, there's been a lot of work done on this. And obviously the supply of medical products, you know, helping the population keep safe and well is an absolute priority for every government. So, and of course, every enterprise. So in terms of supply chain, I think hopefully we're looking in good shape.
Well, that's reassuring to know anyway, so thank you for that. Well, I'll leave you here then, because I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, but thank you very much for giving us that overview. I hope everyone found that useful. If you'd like to know more about NSF and the solutions and the services and how they can help you, check out the links above the video, because you'll be able to do that. And if you've got any questions for John in terms of what he's been saying about some of the trends and whether you agree or disagree with him, feel free to put a comment below the video, because I'm sure John will be delighted to see those and respond to them accordingly. So John, all that's left for me to say is thank you very much, as always, for taking the time out to talk to me.
Thank you very much, Rizwan. Take care. Have a happy Christmas.
Yeah, and well, same to you. I wish you and your loved ones and everyone at NSF a wonderful festive season and a fantastic start to 2021. And similarly to you, everyone who's watching, same thing to you. But also, as always, until next time, stay well and stay safe. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.